Well, I was bused to school, and that's when I encountered a ton of racism. I get, nigger every day and just getting beat up and it was just a bad, bad experience.
You were bused from where to
I was
where?
bused from Bed-Stuy to a place called Garrison Beach. And I was in the second grade. And I was actually bused to a neighborhood worse than the one I lived in. It was white, but if you looked at those houses and our houses were actually better. My first day in school, I'm not going to say the girl's name because she probably is married with kids now, but literally the first day in school, they sit me down next to this little girl, and she goes, "You're a nigger."
To where? What did you say?
It was just like, I didn't even know that I was supposed to get mad. It was just like perplexing, like, huh? Like maybe I'd seen it like in some, some movie, some after-school special or something like Roots, but it was like, wow, this is gonna be, I'm in for a ride here.
For Chris's family, and for countless other African Americans, the promise of the Great Migration soon gave way to the stark reality of northern urban ghetto life. Jackie Joyner Kersee, three-time Olympic gold medalist, grew up in East St. Louis, Illinois. Her grandparents moved here from small towns in Mississippi and Tennessee, searching for a fresh start. To Jackie, this was home. To some of the schools she competed against, however, East St. Louis was no man's land, a place to be feared.
When we competed, a lot of white schools wouldn't come to our school. They're afraid their bus was going to be rocked or they're going to get jumped on. So a lot of times we had to go to their schools. And a lot of times, even when we travel, we didn't know why we all couldn't go into the restaurant. Is that no, they would take our order and they bring our food back out.
Even in the 70s?
Yes.
In the 80s?
Yes.
Yeah.
As you got older, then you start understanding why the coaches would be so upset. And then there were just certain hotels that we couldn't stay in. And because, you're going to be too rowdy. And when you would say you were from East St. Louis, before the people even got to know you, they already said no.
East St. Louis was decimated by layoffs and factory closings in the 50s and the 60s. To this day, it has never really recovered.
Was your neighborhood safe? I mean, did you have a lot of crime around? When you think of black communities
Right.
in the inner city today, we think of crime and drugs. Was it like that? I mean, could you walk to school by yourself? Did you ever worry about being hurt or?
You didn't worry about being hurt because you become a product of your environment. And your environment is your existence. And so for me, what was out of the ordinary for someone else was really ordinary for me. But then you realize that your neighborhood was safe because those same people that was shooting and fighting would be the same people that would protect you. That you would have a set of men that would sit on the corner and they would be drinking. But never did they try to approach us in a way that was inappropriate. It was always encouraging us to do something with our life, And yes, drugs, violence. It was a part of it, but never did anyone come to me and say, take this or do this. It was always, girl, you're going to be something.
Really?
The bus man, when you get on the bus to go to school, keep running, girl. You gonna make it, It was always encouragement.
Encouragement from the black community, especially from your family, could save you from seeing yourself as inferior, as somehow less of a person in segregated America. Peter Gomes, the distinguished professor of religion and the minister at Harvard's Memorial Church, grew up in Plymouth, Massachusetts. He lives there today.
Plymouth was a white town. Did your parents ever prepare you consciously for the encounter with anti-black racism?
Oh, yes. In subtle ways, though. They never said to me, now, you watch out when somebody calls you nigger. Nobody, they never said that. And their way of preparing me for dealing with the real world was to remember that I was better than everybody else. Their whole way of preparing their son was, you know, you go out there and you let them know you're the best at this and you're the best at that. You have nothing to apologize for. Stand up straight, my lord. Stand up straight. So I did.
As a religious man, he brought his faith along with him, but he had to express that faith in an entirely new way.
My grandfather drove a cab and was a preacher. Yeah, he was a preacher, and kind of a storefront church in Brooklyn.
Did you go?
Yeah, went a lot. And I used to hang out with him. He used to drive me around the cab a lot of times. I remember one year I spent a lot of time with him. I mean, you know, I saw him pretty much I never went a week without seeing him. But one year there was like a school bus strike. And my father had to work and my mother had to work. So my grandfather would just pick me up every day. He would drive out there.
Oh, that's sweet.
And so once he picked me up, it was like, okay, that was the job. He didn't have to bring me home. So I would actually end up in a cab with him, you know, driving people around. But it's weird. I write my jokes the same way he used to write his sermons. And
How's that?
Just bullet points. Never really write. I never really write the whole joke. I wanted to come out with the passion of an argument.
Right.
And to this day, I write my jokes exactly the same way.
Chris Rock and his grandfather shared a deep bond that defied generational boundaries. Jackie Joyner Kersey's life in East St. Louis was also intertwined with the lives of her extended family, including her paternal great-grandmother, Ollie Mae Thomas.
Well, your parents married when they were very young.
Yes.
They were just teenagers when you and your brother and your sisters were born.
Right.
Your father had to work right out of high school to support the family.
We lived with my great-grandmother, Ollie Mae, in her house, and it was a difficult time now that I look back on it, but during those times, I didn't realize it was difficult.
Oh, really?
You know, we made the best of what we had. We didn't really focus on what we didn't have. We just thought that, you know, everybody go through this, you know.
Sure.
And certain times when there wasn't food on the table and we just had mayonnaise sandwiches or waiting for my grandmother to get her Social Security check monthly. But it wasn't so difficult to the point where we lost our self-esteem or as a family, we gave up on each other. We just pulled together and, hey, this is what it is.
Now, you knew both your great-grandmothers, Lena and Ollie Mae, when you were growing up in East St. Louis. Did either of them talk much about their childhoods in the South?
My great-grandmother, you know, she was really, she was hurt a lot. You know, you could feel that her soul, you know, you don't know what it was, but she was hurting a lot. You know, and even though she did everything she possibly could to make us happy, but you could just feel that she was sad a lot. And I don't know if it was because of where she was born and what she had gone through. When you've had a difficult time in your life, that's just not something you talk about. You didn't discuss certain things. But you knew that there were certain things you had to do in order to, you know, make ends meet and make a better life.
You can't airbrush it. You can't deny it. You can't romanticize it. These were difficult times for most African Americans. Just facing the reality of life each day in a crumbling city like East St. Louis took courage.